Soccer World Fan TV here. We do have another neutral reaction here. A Manchester United reaction, to be quite honest, of the game that happened today. Arsenal, Spurs versus Arsenal. Mate, what is your feeling overall in the game?
I think there's a lot to say about the game, but I'd say overall that was a vintage Mourinho performance. Sucker punched them once early on the counter, sit back, sucker punched them again on the counter, sit back again, don't give them a yard, don't give them an inch. 2-0 win, easy as you like. Spurs didn't have a shot on target in the second half. They didn't need one because Arsenal were 2-2 plus against them. So classic Mourinho performance. Score two on the counter, just sit back to absorb all the pressure and let the other team just peter out.
hmm I think there was a lot of good things to say about Spurs, especially Son's absolute banger of a goal, which I think a
Yeah,
lot of people. Wow, and
yeah,
then of
that was
course, and of
absolutely
course,
amazing. I don't think
yeah,
Mourinho planned for that, but
yeah, I
worked
know,
out for
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And of course, Kane is just doing Kane stuff. But let's talk about Arsenal because they have
Yeah.
been lacking on a lot of things. And first and foremost, I think they did bring Partey quite quickly into the game and everything. Do you think it was a bad idea on Arsenal side for them to bring Partey so soon?
Yeah, it seemed like he did hobble off injured, so maybe there was some, maybe because of the pressure on the club and the pressure of the big game, maybe they tried to rush him in sooner, and clearly it didn't work out because he had to be rushed off for the second goal. He wasn't on the field, and that's part of the reason why they went on that 4-on-2 counter. So clearly it didn't work well, and yeah, I guess really depends to be seen if the medical staff did pass him as fully fit or if the manager rushed him because he was under a lot of pressure. So clearly something that didn't work out, but I guess Arsenal did need that midfield solidity in order to counter Spurs. So I guess I do see that why Arteta would make that choice, but I guess in hindsight it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm. And for considering that Arsenal they claim to have such a great defensive record for the second goal especially,
Yeah,
they could left themselves quite open and everything. Do you think it was just down to Mourinho sucking them in with his tactics and
yeah,
everything, or do you think it was
yeah, and
partially?
yeah, I'd say yeah, it's like per vintage Spurs counter, get them on the break, Son, Kane on the break. Son makes the dribble, Kane makes the finish. So yeah, I'd say that's probably the kind of goal that Spurs had planned for, and Arsenal fell for that. And seemed to me that I feel that Arteta doesn't really have a plan right now, be it defense or be it attack. Attacking wise, his plans literally just bunt in crosses to nobody in particular. So they have one world class striker whose ability is pace and finishing. So they'll just make crosses all game for him. Arsenal had 44 crosses today. Last week against Wolves, they had 33 crosses. Arteta said himself that with the amount of crosses, there's bound to be someone there, bound to eventually turn into goals. But last two games, 77 crosses, they scored one goal. So evidently doesn't seem to be the way. So doesn't seem like he has much of a plan
And then
defensively or offensively.
evidently so. I mean, it says in the stats as well. In the last 6 games, only one open play goal, which was actually a header
Yeah.
from Mangales, and 6 losses in 11 Premier League games. Do you
Yeah.
really do put down to it all on Arteta? Do you think that it was just a lack of personnel that he wasn't able to get? Because at the end of the day, they went over the stops to get like Party as a whole. They didn't weren't able to get a
Yeah.
lot of other players.
Yeah, I do think that they certainly like maybe they don't have the best personnel and I wouldn't put them in the my top four like squad wise. They're not supposed to be in the top four for sure. So I would say that's probably over expectations if Arsenal fans are expecting. But they certainly have better personnel than their performances are. Like they're not supposed to be 15th by any means. They have one of the best strikers in the world. They have one of the most highly rated midfielders in Partey. They signed him for big money, big hyped signing, and and as Arteta claimed that he had transformed their defense, so they've been making signings. They have like 150 million worth of forward talent. So clearly there is something wrong with Arteta there. Seems like Arsenal fired Gunnar Soros from being their mascot, hired him as a manager, and he's just the guy has absolutely no plan. He's just hoping that something works. From his own words, his plan is just throw in crosses. Eventually, one of them is supposed. Well, eventually, one of them will materialize into a goal. So seems like the guy doesn't have any plan, and I think like if he wasn't Pep Guardiola's assistant, he'd probably be doing commentary for a goal in Spain or something right now. And seems like the only thing he has in common with Pep is that they're both frauds.
Damn, big claims. And of course, I know you have been one of those huge admirers of, what is it, Jose Mourinho over the years and
Yeah,
everything. You were one of the few people that actually claimed that Mourinho was a big mistake sacking from Manchester
yeah,
United in general and everything.
absolutely.
At least at the moment right now, he is doing absolutely wonders, especially going beyond everybody's expectations of what they have
Yeah,
predicted. I think maybe a couple of people have put him in top four, but I think majority of them actually thought he was going to finish around the top 5 or 6 areas and everything. Do
yeah.
you think that, based on it, do you think it's over your expectations as well, or do you expected this from a manager as Jose Mourinho to completely transform them in their full season?
Yeah, to be honest, I would have expected them, and I think I even the last time I came from on this reaction, I did say I think they'll finish in like third or fourth. I did not realistically expect them to challenge for the title already because they were nowhere near that last season. So I think it's just taking advantage of a lot of factors that, such as Van Dijk and Gomez's injuries, that puts Liverpool back into the mix. City's inconsistency. I don't think a lot of people foresaw them being this inconsistent. So I guess it's just a lot of unpredictable factors, and the fact that they're one of the ones that are in prime position to take advantage of that and make a genuine title challenge. I would say even if they don't like end up close to the title, as long as they finish in the top 3 or 4, I would say that's still a success for Mourinho, given that his predecessor Pochettino had 25 points in his last 24 Premier League games. That's relegation level form for almost over 2/3 of a season. And as much as been made about their summer signings, all they signed was a cheap player from Southampton, Hjortberg, and then a couple of players from Real Madrid, a couple of Real Madrid rejects in Reguilon and Bale, and Doherty, who Wolves weren't too reluctant to let go of as well. It's not like they've made like superstar signings; they've just made pragmatic signings who didn't cost an arm and a leg as
Yeah.
most players do these days. So
Hmm.
it's not like he's moved a lot of things. Like I would say to transform them from what they were last season to what they are now is definitely he's working miracles. And I'd say anywhere between third and fourth even would be a success. But now that the way the season's going, I think they will expect a title challenge because of the way things are panning out with expected runaway top two not being as far ahead of the pack as we had expected them to be.
Hmm. And if Jose Mourinho definitely does win the title, if he does, because there is a possibility, I didn't think it happened in football. Do you think that it just, magnify the fact that from your team before they shouldn't have sacked him, and as well like a big kick in the face, and also as well
Mm,
for his reputation as a manager
yeah,
overall, it would, I think, over the top because.
exactly. Yeah, a lot of people said that Mourinho's finished. He's past the game now. He's past it. He's washed up. A lot of people have been saying that for 5 or 6 years since his last season at Chelsea. Yeah, that this would like getting Tottenham to a title. That's like one of the biggest achievements there is in football. Tottenham Premier League title. Tottenham or trophy are two words that usually don't go together. Tottenham and a Premier League title, that's something that's not been done for a long, long time. That would be a huge kick in the face for a lot of his detractors. And I would say that if he does win the title, of course, it would prove my club, Man United, wrong that we were wrong to not back him in the transfer market and instead sack him prematurely because he had fallen out with some players who seemed to be in and out of the club mentally anyway. I'm sure you know who I'm referring to. But I would say, yeah, like even if he doesn't win the title, even if he gets them to third or fourth, I would say it's a big achievement, and it would still prove that he still has a place in the game as one of the top managers. And winning the title, yeah, I would say that would definitely boost his reputation as one of the greatest managers to ever have been in the game, and would put him close to probably like, I think that would put him as probably the second or the third greatest manager for me of this century at least.
And one final thing as well, because we know that Mourinho does have his that third season syndrome where he doesn't get along and everything. But however, what we see in like the whole Tottenham documentary and what is going on now, do you think potentially he can actually bypass that and actually continue that success within this club?
To be honest, I think like the third season syndrome is a bit of an overblown myth of some sort. If you check his record, I think like the only disastrous third season he ever had was Chelsea in the second time when they were like 15th or 16th. They still ended up finishing 10th even after he was sacked under Stoke City. So not as if that lot was doing wonders without him. For Real Madrid, I think he finished second and won the Copa del Rey in his third season. That's not the biggest disaster. For Chelsea in his first term, I think he finished second as well. Not the biggest disaster. Pretty good in most seasons. Inter Milan, he never made it to the third season. United, again, overblown. He was sixth when he was sacked. We finished sixth after one of the greatest post-Ferguson runs in the club's history as well. So I think that third season syndrome myth is a bit overblown, and it's just, some sections of the media and fans just overblowing things because they don't like a certain manager or style of play or his personality. And yeah, I think if he gets the right talent and if he gets the right dressing room personalities, I think he can definitely bypass that, because in the past, if you see the clubs he's managed, he hasn't dealt with the most pleasing of dressing room personalities. United, Pogba has had issues with other managers and has had issues with the club in general. Mourinho is not the common factor there. Chelsea, after Mourinho, Conte, same thing happened to him. He lost the dressing room and got sacked because the players wouldn't bother. Again, Mourinho not the common factor there. Real Madrid, also another club with noted history of players having massive egos in the dressing room. So I think his like the fallouts that he's been having is also partly down to the clubs he's managed, because if you see like those players in those clubs have had issues with other managers as well. I think that's also something that's overblown. And if he gets the right kind of dressing room personalities, as seems to be the case in Spurs, which is not as big of a club historically as Real Madrid or Man United, so they don't have players with as massive egos as some of the other clubs do, I think he could bypass that third season syndrome and build on whatever they do this season.
And one final thing as well, with Arteta, with his record and everything, do you think he's probably going to get sacked before like the winter, or do you think he's going to be going through the full season?
If it was any other manager, any other club, or if it was left to me, or if it was to Merit, I think he would be. I don't think Arsenal will sack him though, because I think the owners have already sacked a manager this time last year in Unai Emery. So I think they're more likely to stick with Arteta, especially given the fact that he's viewed very well by the fans. So Arsenal is not a club that tries to make wholesale changes a lot, because they're a very economical club. They know that sacking a manager, you have to pay the manager out, and then the new manager comes in, then he buys some certain kinds of players, and there's a bit of a squad rehaul needed, so that often takes a lot of money to do so. So I think Arsenal are the kind of club that will probably push it as late as possible until his position is completely untenable with all the players and fans as was the case with Emery or even Wenger in his last 2 or 3 seasons. Like there was a lot of controversy with him, like a lot of until his position was completely untenable with all the fans and players, is when both Wenger and Emery had to go. So I think Arsenal are the kind of club that'll push it to every last bit and the latest they can. So I don't expect him to get sacked unless they're still like 15th or 16th by January. Even if they're like hovering around 10th or 12th or like 3 or 4 wins below Europa League spots, I think they'll stick with him just for the chance that he works out and they save that money that comes with firing and hiring a manager.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for your insight and everything. And please, if you do like his insight within the Mourinho thing, and I think he may have convinced some people who were Mourinho haters, because he is the one that was a day one, and I think that's particularly why he wanted to talk about this very passionately as well. So, no, I appreciate the comments as always, man. The insight was really good. So if you like his opinions, please give it a like, and of course share his video. And if you want people to change their mind about certain things as well. So, and of course subscribe to the channel for more great content like this. Mate, I hope to see you for the Manchester Derby. We'll see how it goes. And yeah,
I
we'll
will
hope
be
to get
seeing you for that.
yeah, we'll see. We'll hope to see like a great insight and match reaction for that as well. So yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
so everyone, y'all take care and peace.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. Have